in person in San Francisco yesterday or virtually on the Bizaboo platform. I hope you did have a blast. Again, my name is William Chen, the Direct Product at Agora. In this session, I'll be talking about some of the trends, challenges, and potential opportunities on hybrid collaboration, or what we call the real-time collaboration in the hybrid workplace. We also talk about how we can potentially use Agora technology to help address some of those pain points by implementing innovative solutions. The content will likely run about 20 minutes. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them at a Q&A window on your right, and I will try to address them at the end as the time permits. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So when the global pandemic hit us in early 2020, the entire workflows and the way it worked and the way we worked have changed entirely. Knowledge workers started to work remotely from home, and service providers such as nurse, retail employees, factory workers, and others, they've experienced almost overnight changes to their work routine. These changes have, however, accelerated the use of digital solutions, and as a result, now we look at it from retrospect, we actually did not see a just dramatic productivity slowdown as some of us feared, but rather I think we've witnessed one of the biggest digital transformation to everything from business continuity to workforce engagement and retention. And here we are in the autumn of 2022. It really doesn't take a rocket scientist to convince us that the hybrid workplace model is really here to stay. As some organizations have betting on sort of the future of virtual work style or fully remote and distributed workforce, while others have accepted it's going to be some kind of mixture of in-person and remote work, and both of which will likely here to stay for the long haul, if not perpetually. And here are some mind-boggling facts that research paper from Deloitte have shown us. Basically, we see 39% of the US adults will consider leaving their jobs if remote work will no longer be an option. While what's a bit contradictory is like the knowledge workers actually spend 40% of their time on work about work. That means overhead of using software tools, collaboration tools, additional meetings, and wrapping up on learning new tools, and status report, and so on and so forth. On the leadership side, I think most of the business leaders do agree, 65% of them, that it is their top priority to implement some kind of digital technology to enable employees to work collaboratively, either in a hybrid fashion or complete remote, to accomplish better communication and collaboration. So what do these tell us? Other than the sort of the obvious working from anywhere becoming a table step, there are actually inherent costs in technology adoption and the fragmentation of the collaboration and software tools that were designed to address the distributed workforce and hybrid workplace problems. And ultimately, business leaders have found out that there's really more to just digital workplace than providing just workers the online access to office applications. It really is about going from looking digital to living digital. The workplace or workforce needs to be redesigned to operate in synchrony and connect all workers to those that they work with wherever they are and whenever they are, right, regardless of location, device, or their time zones. I'm going to talk about the last point a little further. As we make the shift, it actually requires connecting worker experience to business outcomes. So that means putting like workforce and worker experience at the center of the hybrid workforce design and the process required to operationalize the design. And just like any other digital transformation initiatives, it's always going to take the three Ps, basically people, process, and place to make it work. The transformation of the hybrid workplace have actually made the place a little bit more complicated because it would consist of both virtual and on-premises. So that subsequently have made the process more complex than before. So you already take all the personas, basically business decision makers, IP departments, and the users, basically employees and knowledge workers, to align to really operationalize the plan and the design. The result in business outcome actually can be quite rewarding. From the industry report, we can see that with a proper hybrid workforce and experience design, we can actually see a 1.6x more likely to achieve better customer outcomes. And from a underlying perspective, business actually enjoying 25% more profitability than competitors in the bottom quartile. And from a customer satisfaction perspective, we should see a 200% uptick as reflected in their net promoter scores. So this session is about powering real-time collaboration in a hybrid workplace. So let's focus on collaboration a little further. So in fact, if done right, hybrid collaboration can help remove barriers such as geographic barriers and gender bias, among many other things. But achieving these might not be as easy as one would imagine, particularly if you want to design or enforce policy across the entire company, which can potentially have different silos. There can be many hurdles, and that can be generally categorized into the following 3 categories. And I will talk about each of them with more details. So what happens here is that one of the collaboration platforms, they surveyed their 400 people, employee, on their expectations or rather experiences with remote collaboration. As you can see on the chart, their top 4 frustrations were missing connection with colleagues, lack of spontaneity, difficulty in communication, and struggle with creativity in this sort of the hybrid work style. A good example of this really is sort of, we kind of all miss the old sort of hallway conversation if we work completely remote. My personal experience is that if I ever wanted to find out some information from some of my colleagues quickly, I would try to Slack the person, right? But however, if they had their Slack notification turned off at a time, or if the person was busy on meetings or other things, more often than not, I actually got information later than what I would need, and sometimes maybe it was already too late. The alternatives would be to scheduling a meeting with the person, or maybe just call them up or text them. But all 3 of them can be quite intrusive in some cases. And we just don't know if the person really can make it if we schedule last minute notice. And that's not, I mean, from a courtesy standpoint, it's not very nice. Also, like sometimes the topic itself is just not big enough for a formal meeting. Another good example will be when people are in the office, they tend to chit chat and have sort of coffee chat or in the hallway, and they talk about stuff outside of work, right? And that create that human connection among colleagues and knowledge workers. While we are on online conferencing call, we usually just don't schedule a meeting to talk about what's happening in life. That's just kind of weird. So I guess some people, they implemented this water cooler channel on Slack. Sometimes that works, sometimes that don't. But it's just not as effective as it would be on sort of an in-person setting. Collaboration barriers. This is really about like, I think the second one is technical difficulties. So this is really about everyone sort of has been forced to use a tool that sometimes don't meet their needs or their requirements, or sometimes just don't feel right? That can be just the UI design, the UX design, or the complexity of the features, workflow, and whatnot, right? And technical difficulty and technical issues on both the hardware and software can arise pretty commonly, as you often would experience. Like if you're on a Zoom call, on WebEx call, you would say that, hey, can you hear me now? Am I double muted? Or just basically have challenge connecting, whether it's firewall issues or internet connection issues. Collaboration barriers. So if you look at the chart on the left, this is the 99-1 rule. This is usually referred to participation inequality in social and online online communities perspective. But in real-time collaboration, the rule somewhat also applies, right? So this could potentially be even worsened in a hybrid or virtual collaboration setting, because difference in communication patterns can be exaggerated with hybrid collaboration. And for example, if you're an extrovert, you tend to interrupt other people more frequently. Might very well like dominate their conversation. Whereas in an in-person setting, I think that can sometimes be avoided with eye contacts or gestures and other things. When this is virtual, it's very hard to really address this. And sometimes conversing and taking turns, as I mentioned earlier, it's just a lot easier with face-to-face communication and collaboration. The pace of sort of, if you have a hybrid setting, like the in-person conversation can easily overtake remote audiences. And basically, the remote participants will be having strong difficulties to participate and contribute as a result. So how do we address these problems? One aspect is to install a right organizational mindset. And that, of course, applies to both the business leaders, the decision makers, as well as the users, the employees. One of the things that we can do is to optimize or maximize collaboration time. What I mean by that really is before you start a meeting or collaboration in a hybrid setting or virtually, you always have agenda and a list of expectations for that discussion, and you do pre-work, you get prepared before you go into that actual discussion. And when you actually do jump on that discussion, that call, try to spend as much of your time to really focus on the discussion and collaboration itself. And I always take meeting notes, meeting minutes, as well as documenting action items and next step. And if possible, schedule follow-up meetings right there and right then when the participants are still there. The second thing we can do is really recalibrate meeting mechanics. This really is to sort of engage both in-person and remote attendees. So we will probably structure the sessions to have a mixture of sort of free-form discussion, basically individual contribution, as well as sort of like readouts with a group discussion. And sometimes when necessary, you just have to call people or call people out to get their participation, right? So that way you get more engagement and more discussion with the topics that you have on that meeting. Lastly, ensure equal participation and inclusivity. So this sort of echoes the second point. So this is to make sure that hybrid meetings, we want to encourage equal participation. As I mentioned earlier, the 99-1 rule, you don't want to leave people behind, whether that's people participating online, virtually, or participate from a co-located in-person setting. We don't want to create any favorism in terms of the decision are dominated by the in-person participants or vice versa. So we talked much about being user-centric, right? And about ways to make hybrid collaboration more productive. How do we really choose the right tool or software for it? And so let me change the perspective here a little bit, right? As a collaboration platform provider, how do we design our products and provide the best user experience possible and increase our user adoption? I'm actually going to pause here and jump onto the next slide and talk about our current landscape. So this is a style landscape that looks already overwhelming from a user standpoint. Of course, some of these companies have already went public or they were acquired by other larger companies. Since the graph was created by the research paper on CB Insights. The silver lining on this, of course, is that there's enough pain points and use cases to be addressed in the whole future of work transformation. And that although we're running the risk of creating more silos or technology islands and further fragmenting the teams, each of these two actually is doing a really good job by addressing a pain point specifically. And now let's go back to our previous slides. In order to be successful, really driving the hybrid collaboration effectively, organization will need purpose-built tools to support the way of working that sort of, we talked about the need to address social struggles or social risks and drive cultural impact at the same time. We basically want to augment what we do well in person collaboration, but digitize the whole workflow. So work products can be ingestible, searchable, and referenceable. We also want to foster engagement and inclusivity and make sure that all team members have equal opportunities to participate in discussion and collaboration. Lastly, we want to support team-specific workflow as well as company-wide collaboration at scale. We want to minimize potential technical difficulties and optimize the earning curve of our products. So with that, I'm actually going to switch gear a little bit and talk about how Agora's RTE technology, real-time engagement technology, fit into all of these. At a macro level, this really is the ability to embed enterprise-grade real-time audio, video, and messaging to applications addressing the whole hybrid workplace, hybrid collaboration use cases. It gives our customers, the platform developers, to build an integrated user experience rather than siloed and fragmented tools that we are experiencing today. So this can basically break down to three pillars. First, RTE really brings on essential elements to augment a common workplace, whether it's virtually or physically, and that keeps employee engaged with their colleagues. It also brings on real-time, ultra-low latency collaboration and communication experience to knowledge workers, allow them to remain productive while working remotely or in person with high security and greater scalability. The second pillar is about continuous investments on our future-proof infrastructure and SDK. As we continue to provide local and no-code solutions for our customers, making these solutions as robust, flexible, and scalable as possible. So our customers can really focus on what they do best, and that is to build the best virtual and hybrid office experience in the world, or the most immersive collaboration experience on the planet. Lastly, as a platform as a service provider, we focus on making our network and service as globally available, scalable, and reliable as possible. We want to empower your organization to deliver innovative yet reliable solutions and user experience. We want to enable you to go on to market faster and the ability to optimize as you learn from your customers and users. Because your success is our success, and that's evident by the 60-some billions of minutes engagements that run on Agora platform every month. So I want to dive in a little deeper in some of the new products that we just introduced on the RTE product family. By the way, if you attended yesterday's session, product keynote, our VP of product, Patrick, have already mentioned all of these products in the session, but I wanted to cover a little bit more about the products, and we can potentially leverage them to build great real-time collaboration experience. Starting with Interactive Whiteboard, this can arguably be one of the most useful and powerful tools for real-time and synchronous collaboration. Whether it is to capture our creative ideas on the spot or spontaneously, or to demonstrate a chain of thoughts and let it be able to persist in the ideas and not to be discussed throughout the other time or with meeting participants and people outside of the meetings. Whiteboard or Interactive Whiteboard is proven to be more intuitive and closer to a real-world experience in a physical world. A good thing about virtual whiteboard, though, is that people can really collaborate digitally, right? Meaning that they can be anywhere in the world. So you don't have to sort of take a picture at the end of the meeting of the board, and which is kind of what I usually did when I was working in the office, in which case only physical whiteboards are available. We think that Interactive Whiteboard is not only a board, right? It's a digital canvas that comes with full suites of interactive tool sets and toolbox, and an extensivity or the ability to connect to other third-party extensions, such as some of the sort of future of work products and collaboration tools you saw a few slides back. Another interesting feature I want to highlight is the ability to load and attach files to the whiteboard. This way you don't have to really separate screen share for your file versus the actual meeting. You can have to having to look at whiteboard sort of on a different screen, right? So the annotation labels just makes it so much easier to follow what people are doing if you have multiple people collaborating at the same time on the whiteboard. Yeah, I think we're running out of time a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about the fastboard. So we know that time to market and getting ready users' feedback is important for our customers. And we also know that having an awesome user experience is equally important. So that's why we are introducing Fastboard. It's basically a new SDK that simplifies the API of our Interactive Whiteboard SDK, and that adds the UX and UI implementations. The Fastboard SDK integrates pre-built plugins and allows developers to easily integrate and extend the functionality of their whiteboard applications to enrich user experiences. I would encourage you to try out our demo at whiteboard.agora.io to try it yourself. I think the chat SDK is really self-explanatory. In the interest of time, I'm actually going to skip ahead of these. If you have questions about the products and the features, you can reach out to me offline, or you can reach out to the product team directly. But I actually wanted to show our transcription. So the transcription or speech-to-text service is actually offered as part of our media services product portfolio. The transcription is more than just closed captioning, right? Which kind of was the traditional media and over-the-top content providers are calling it. There are actually three major use cases that the transcription addresses in the real-time collaboration and feature and work narrative. The first is discoverability. With transcription, you actually can make meeting information searchable and actionable, right? So for people who are unable to participate in the meeting, they can look into the transcript, and they can basically review an hour-long call in 5 minutes. Accessibility is equally important. Whether it's meetings or brainstorming session, we want to make the session more engaging and equitable to everybody, right? That means to the hearing impaired as well. Real-time translation and captioning can make multilingual conversation possible. Last but not least, automation. With the transcription technology, we can implement something like automatic note-taking or meeting abstract and so on and so forth. So with the conversation AI, we can keep everybody aligned within and outside of the meeting and make them a lot more actionable. And before I end my session, I want to show you a little bit of this recording.
To interface and to interact.
Cleave the two halves apart. We can inflate the cortex to see inside all of the.
You get the idea, right? So on the left is the original transcript of people talking. You see that people actually talking over each other, which is very real in the real life situation. On the right, we do cross-processing. We convert the unique user IDs to their actual names. This can be very useful for contextual analysis, or if you want to create a chronological order of meeting notes.
To interface and to interact.
With that, I want to conclude the session with the following message. Agora, our vision is to build technology and work with you to make the future of work more collaborative, engaging, and accessible, as well as innovative. And we hope that's your vision as well.